No, we're moving. No, we're live.
Oh, hey! Hi, guys. I'm Aaron Justin Bryant from Table Knights Entertainment. Sorry about that. We were having a slight bit of technical issues. Welcome. I know that we missed last week, and I apologize. I was very, very ill. And with the recent surgery to my mouth and all sorts of bacterial stuff, it's my house was a petri dish anyway.
Also, shit hits the fan for most of us.
Yeah, it was a wacky week. Finals, you know. Give us a break. Anyways,
we're just people.
We're back, and this week's discussion on Talk 20 to Me is puzzles, and it's a very, very interesting subject. I really like it, although I don't do as many puzzles as I could. I do have a DM here, or pseudo DM. You haven't DM'd a game yet, have you?
Nope, still waiting for the group to fucking get done with it.
Who has designed a few dungeon puzzles. With me today, though, is Giovanni Perez, Douglas Conrado, and just to start as we usually do, let's define what a puzzle is. It is a mental thing. Basically, it's like a mental exercise that you use to find patterns or some sort of solution to a problem. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty catch-all explanation for it, unless anybody wants to expound on that.
Where does an enter triangle box?
That is true, Douglas. So that being said, Gio, you do a lot of very abstract style puzzles. Give us your thoughts on puzzle creation.
Well, puzzle creation, the whole reason why I ended up for most of my dungeons really looking into puzzles and riddles is that I feel that D&D should be more than just fighting and straight fighting. And of course, a best way to do this is to wrap a player around in your story. But a lot of the times you have to give the player a reason to get wrapped up in your story. So what I do is that I usually tend to create puzzles or scenarios where the players have to know what's going on around them in order to pass the puzzle in front of them. And a lot of the times that either means the answer is right literally in front of them, or it's through little things and knickknacks that's been strewn throughout the dungeon that they've passed by so far. And that way, once players get used to that kind of questioning about the world around them, they start to pay attention to every detail, ask more questions, and they have to kind of force themselves to be more invested in the world around them. So I create puzzles not only to do something that's not just like, endgame mini-boss, but also to force the players to actually be in the world that we're trying to create.
That's a good way to incorporate puzzles. Douglas, what about you?
Puzzles are such interesting things. They make you play with your mind in good ways and in bad ways, kind of like a striptease. So, yes. So how does that all play into how it's translated into game? I feel that puzzles are a unique aspect that should be put into all games. Why? Because games not only are entertaining, but they should also be an instrument of knowledge, per se. In other words, your brain is still growing, not just being dumbed down. A great example of that is God of War. It's a game that is built on like bloody, combos and just button smashing, but there's intricate puzzles throughout the whole series. Puzzles that make you think, and I know for a fact that some of us have, gone through the wikis just trying to solve these puzzles. Why? Because they do require thought. It's not just a game where it's like, kill, but there's also thought to it.
I'll be back after Douglas is done. Alec, you go ahead.
Okay. Doug, do you want to expand on what you've said, or you want me to take it from here?
I mean, other than that, as far as when I've put puzzles into my games, I generally have puzzles that affect the player personally, not so much as the group, because I make puzzles a journey right per se. Um, it is something that not only do the players need to do to just only continue, but also as a understanding of who they are in the world. Because yes, you have your backstory, but I give them these puzzles so they can elaborate more on that, so they can truly understand that this character they made is actually something and is a living, breathing thing. And by doing these puzzles, I expand on their character themselves. Now you can take it away.
All right. Um, I really dig puzzles. Just like not even talking about tabletop gaming. I just like puzzles and riddles and stuff like that. So I do try to incorporate them into my games, and I think puzzles are a really interesting thing. Like it's cool when you give your players a puzzle, and they're all kind of like huddling around this and furrowing their brows and trying to figure it out in a way that kind of brings them together more than like fighting monsters would. Like that's very nice to see. I tend to make puzzles optional simply because if you've accidentally given your team a puzzle that's too difficult, that can very quickly bog down a game and tempt you to kind of write in a bullshit way out of the puzzle. So mine tend to be optional things that reward the player with loot and stuff like that. Puzzles are also, and this doesn't really apply to online sessions, but puzzles are an easy thing to actually make physical and give your players like an actual physical puzzle, which brings them into the world a whole lot more if they have a part of the world that's tangible in front of them.
That is a fantastic point, and I like that you brought up that puzzles canon should be optional. I would agree with you on that aspect, and personally, I probably don't do that a lot, making them optional. If I have them there, they're usually like specific to the purpose of the plot. Which for me, a lot of the puzzles that I make incorporate lore into the puzzle, which is something that you can do to make it, as Gio said, more invested in the world. The players more invested because they have to observe and understand what's going on around them to truly get what the puzzle's about. That being said, what is a puzzle that you guys have found to be really useful, or a good puzzle you can go back to, something that people can use time and time again? Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a hard one to put a foot on because it really depends on who you're playing with. Because there's some.
Bless you.
Thank you. There are some people that will look at like the most complex puzzle and be like, "Oh, done." And then there's some people that you would literally give them like the easiest fucking puzzle in the world, and they're just like, they've reached like a metaphysical level of intelligence, and they're just like, "How does this work?" So
This is me.
I mean, it really depends on the party. Like, no offense to our group, but if I were the DM of our group, I'd go with very simplistic puzzles because up until now, the majority of our group was mostly punch through it and then keep going.
Hack and slash.
What?
Hack and slash.
Yeah. So, of course, you don't want to get a group that's been about fighting, that's all about fighting, that their characters are mostly built for fighting, so they wouldn't even, in-game, they wouldn't even have the intelligence to go through it. Then you don't want to make that complex of a puzzle. But as a failsafe, if in real life the players are actually too, for lack of a better term, stupid to figure out how to actually do the puzzle, you could just have them in-game do an intelligence roll.
And give them hints depending on like how well they do. I would never say solve the answer, solve the puzzle like outright for them, unless it's like that desperate.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, what I do is that all the puzzles that I do put into place, I do have a failsafe if the players don't know how to figure it out. And usually, my motto for that is more stories and more action. If they can't figure out how to open this door, make them go through this completely unnecessary, elaborate, roundabout way to get to the other side of that door. Because if they can't go through that puzzle, just giving some bullshit reason to bypass that puzzle is very poor DMing. And you should take that opportunity to open up the players more as well as your world. Like, if there's a door that they had to get through by solving a riddle, and for the life of them they couldn't solve that riddle, then they're gonna have to find a way to get through that door. Whether if it's physically destroying it, in which they would have to do some like hardcore shit and actually like, oh credit, I guess we're gonna backtrack 3 days into town to buy some explosives because we can't get through this like 5 foot thick door.
They could just call Muna.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that there's so much you could do to open up your world in order to bypass a puzzle rather than just giving like some random reason out of the sky that you could just pass through it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it really gets to that point and you really need to get them past it, then just have them do an intelligence roll.
Alec, what's a puzzle you feel like it's safe to go back to every once in a while?
That's a difficult question because I have DM'd less than a handful of times, and my previous DMs apparently did not like puzzles because I don't remember ever having to do any of them as an adventurer.
Well, what's a puzzle that you do?
I don't. I'm sorry?
What's a puzzle you do like, though?
I like any puzzles that have like a two-part formula to them, where you have to find one piece of something and then find another piece of something, and the players have to figure out that those two items are connected, and they have to figure out how to combine those items to figure it out.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Those are pretty useful too, because I mean, you can turn whatever it is that they're using into like a valuable item. However, that also brings up something that I think, Gio, you have problems with. It makes the item indestructible.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that does come up, I would say make the item totally destructible.
Yeah, why not?
Up the players if they break the item.
That goes back to what I was saying earlier, that don't make the puzzle or whatever pieces that are part of that puzzle entirely codependent to the story. If the entire story hinges on these people solving this puzzle, then rather than taking the easy way out and either making it invincible or letting them just bypass it, make other plans. Don't make your entire story hinge on this puzzle because you want it to be epic, because then that just leads to poor DMing.
Indeed. Douglas, what is a puzzle that you have enjoyed using?
I don't know why, but something about having a troll bridge in my world always satisfies me.
Like the troll asks them questions, or?
Yes, I literally have this bridge that, depending on when they traverse it, because there's actually a cycle in which I have them appear and not appear, depending on when they get there, there'll be a group of trolls. Only one of them ever appears, though, and this one, being the most intelligent out of all the trolls, asks them a riddle. Because the beauty about riddles is they can be as easy or as difficult as you want them to be. Unless you have one of those fucking asshole of players that have, you know, their phone out, and they're just like, got it, it's a leg, it's a leg, it's a leg.
Don't do that if you're a player. If you do that if you're a player, you're committing an atrocious sin.
You're a dickwad if you do that.
Two things about that. Then your puzzle is you like riddles, not the bridge, because then your puzzle is literally just like giving them riddles. But in terms of that, I would suggest making your own riddles rather than going off to the internet, because riddles have become so mainstream nowadays that it's just like everyone and their mother knows these riddles, and it's not because they're intelligent. It's because like you could literally just look at Facebook and be like, oh, Okay.
Riddles.
Now,
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't make my own riddles. It's just that it takes a process to do that, and given how quickly my group tends to just move along with the world, it doesn't really give me much of a chance to create those dynamic set pieces. Because we've all been there in which, all right, I'll just save this for next time, and it should be all good. And then the group just somehow advances more quickly than you thought, and you're just like, there you go, just do that, yeah, that's perfect.
um, if you are going to make your own riddles, by the way, it's actually not as hard as it might seem. All you have to do is pick one thing that you're making the subject of the riddle and think about it from a very logical standpoint and what it is associated with. And then you just have to make it fanciful around it. And you don't even really have to do that part, but it's just nice to make it sound fanciful.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, and this may be terrible, I'm literally just in this right now, there's a lot of riddles about pearls. One that you could just pull out is sand that is licked until shined around a woman's neck, it looks divine. Because sand goes into a clam's mouth, and
Do you
it's...
want me? Sorry, do you want me to explain the best way to make riddles?
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's this game that's been going along Facebook for a while.
Riddle Making, guys, 101.
Yeah, it's a lot easy, and trust me, I've already made several pages in which I've had people test on my riddles, and they've been like, wow, that's actually pretty good. Okay, so there's this game going around Facebook a lot recently that's basically try to explain to someone a movie in the worst possible way.
Oh.
Wait, let me explain. So, for the viewers out there who hasn't seen it, basically, for example, Finding Nemo, the line was, a man with PTSD travels with a mentally challenged woman to find his lost handicapped child. Now, if you think about it, that really is Finding Nemo. Now, imagine doing something like that, trying to obscurely describe an object
In its simplest form.
and then just take that description and make it either rhyme or make it sound poetic. And then that's how you make a riddle. That's how I make all my riddles.
Yeah.
And everyone's always like, oh. And it's like, it's the easiest thing.
Yeah, it's not quite as difficult as people make it out. Now, you may have some trouble the first couple times you do it, but that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that it's just a specific way of thinking that you have to do.
It's that aha moment that they look for and which they really enjoy.
Yeah, and that's honestly, it's a simple yet really rewarding thing to do, because it does create that Eureka moment, which is a basic human want. We look for that because we used to have to solve problems all the time, and whenever we did, we would get a little rush of dopamine or something.
Yeah.
Dopamine!
All right, Doug.
Cocaine!
And it was just something. It's something that we're evolved to want. So we're getting close to the end of today's session. Oh my God! I forgot to say, don't forget to donate to Child's Play. I should go murder myself. I'm sorry.
Aaron, how could you?
I'm a horrible man. Don't forget the link will be in the description below. I'm gonna just.
In the meantime, to wrap it all up, folks, let me give you my quick view on puzzles. I think puzzles are a great way to entertain your players. They're something that takes them off of the mindless killing every once in a while, and it helps them, invoke that brain power if you feel like your party is a bit lacking on that. And it's also a great way to, give a good pause, a good breath to everything that's going on. Now, whether you want to have a lot of puzzles or a little amount of puzzles is up to you. As you know, it is your game. It is how you wish to make it. But as long as the players are enjoying, then does it really matter?
Alec.
Jill or Alec?
Puzzles are really fun, and they can make the players kind of. Well, it's true. Puzzles are really fun. But puzzles can make the players kind of. It can kind of force the players to have to utilize teamwork to work towards a goal, something that they don't necessarily always have to do when they're fighting monsters or exploring a dungeon. And I also like them. I also like them because it gives me a good excuse to make actual physical props for my games, which I think is a really cool thing.
MGO.
Puzzles. Puzzles are really something that I feel goes without saying should at least be in one game or two every once in a while, because it's as Douglas said, that it's good to have that break up from the action, and it's good to utilize all senses of the character rather than just a straightforward battle system. I could really talk all days about puzzles, to be honest. But it's basically just really try to get a feel about puzzles, and don't be afraid to go looking online to see what people have done in the past about puzzles, and either try to revamp them or make them better or revisit them altogether. Because honestly, puzzles are a good thing to have in dungeons for the most part, because then it shows that there's a complexity that went into this dungeon rather than like, let's give you hallways and stuff to fight.
As Gio said, don't be afraid to take other people's ideas. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's the only way we're going to get any higher. It's pretty much impossible to be original now, and that's okay. Don't feel bad about it. You know, it's something that a lot of people probably get torn up about, but you shouldn't.
Exactly. I mean, most of everyday material, fan fiction, story, everything has an origin on how it became to be.
And if other puzzles are a little bit too difficult for you, the riddle is always the poor man's puzzle. Although it's not really poor. It's a delicious mental treat that you can suckle at the teat of from time to time, and I made it weird.
Because who doesn't like a grumpy old troll who lives under a bridge?
And from all of us here at Table Knights Entertainment, don't forget to donate to Child's Play. Like, comment, and subscribe. Give us your favorite puzzle in the comments below, or riddle, because I would really like to see that, actually, because then I can
tell us why you hate puzzles and riddles.
Yeah. Audience interaction. Let's encourage some of that.
And that being said, don't forget to donate to Child's Play. I'm sorry. And from all of us here at Table Knights Entertainment, roll on.
Don't you crack!
Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.